perform certain manipulation or certain upgradation or certain kind of operations that is useful for maintaining the data, for upgrading the data, or extracting the data for doing further analysis. So till now I have covered the process by which we can install the SQL Server in our system. I have discussed about the SQL Server Management Studio, where I have showed you how we can create certain database and how we can create a table and what is the hierarchy that we follow basically in SQL Server Management Studio. So it's all start with the server, then the database, and then we go for the tables, columns, and then the column data and work. I've also discussed a short definition of a primary key. In today's session, I'll be talking about some more options that we can perform over our database. Now, I've also discussed about the SQL Server Architecture, and I have also discussed about the three important components of SQL Server Architecture, where I have discussed about the protocol layer, the relational engine, the storage engine, and what are the types of protocol layers we have. And also I have talked about the relational database, the what actually the relational database does, and what are the important things that we need to keep in mind for designing a relational database, where I have discussed about the requirement analysis, how we can design a table, how we can create relationship among the tables, and how we can refine and normalize the design of the database. Now, today I am going to talk about a few more new topics like database. I'll also give a brief discussion on the types of database, and also we'll take our first step towards the SQL Server operations, where I'll be showing you a walkthrough of the different queries that we can do with the available database, the tables. I will also talk about the primary key and foreign key in detail, and at the end we'll be see how we can take the backup of a database, how we can duplicate a database, how we can restore a database, how we can drop a database. So there are a lot of things that I'm going to cover today. So these are the topics that I'm going to talk about. So already we have seen how to create a database and table. So again, we'll take this discussion to the next level, where I'll be talking about how we can insert a table data, updating a table, updating a database, and updating a column in a table. So there are a lot of things, hands-on examples that I'm going to talk about today. So let's start and let's get into the business, where we'll be creating one more database, and I will repeat all these points that I have in line for today's discussion. Now, going back to the SQL Server Management Studio, what we can do, let's start the fresh steps for creating a database to deleting a database, for duplicating, restoring, and taking backups. So all these operations we'll be talking about today with some hands-on example. So let's start our session with writing certain queries for creating a database. So by now you have a fair idea how we can write a query over here by using the SQL Server Management Studio. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do over here is to create a database. So for that, I can use a command called create. Database, and we can name the database as d underscore, we can name it as d underscore sample data, and we can press enter. Now we can execute this particular query. Now, in order to execute a query in SQL Server Management Studio, now let me give a review of the SQL Server Management Studio. SQL Server Management Studio is an interface between the user and the SQL Server. So it's an interface through which we communicate with the SQL Server. It's a simple software interface where we can enter the query, where we can see the details of the server and the database in the Object Explorer, which is there in the extreme left hand side. So you can see the Object Explorer having the server details, and below that we have the database. So these are some of the database that I have created, like AdventureWorks, Tableau, Power BI, and a sample data. So let me change this database. So already I can see a sample data over here, database over here. So let me name this database as what I can give. The best name what I can go for is D underscore data work. Now I have given the name to this particular database called data work, D underscore data work. Now I can execute this query through this execute option over here. Now there are two ways. Either you can click on this execute option, or you can press Ctrl plus E. Now you can see the moment we have execute this query, I have got a message over here, the command completed successfully. Now in order to see the changes over here, what we can do, we have created a database, but we cannot see the name of this database over here under the database folder. What you can do, you can right click on this database folder and you can refresh it, and you can see the data D underscore data work database has been created. Now today we'll be working in this particular database, and the further operations like taking a backup or updating the database name, altering the database name, altering the table, or altering the table column, everything we'll be doing considering this particular database today. Now today's session is just a walk before we run into the next level of complexities in SQL Server. So I'll be working on few important queries which we'll take up in the upcoming sessions in detail. Now the first thing that we can do, once we have created a database under this particular server called Panther, it's time to create a table under this in this particular database. So the next query that I'm going to write over here is, we have to tell the SQL Server Management Studio first that I am going to use this particular database for creating a table. So for that we need to write use and name of this particular database, that is data work. And you can see the moment I type D over here, the related database which are available in this particular server has been populated in the drop down. So we need to select D underscore data work, and then we have to write the next query is create a table. The name of the table, let's name this as a product table. So prod underscore or T underscore prod. And let's have a table, a column in this particular table as product. And let's give that particular product a data type of 5, and let's close it. Now let's execute this particular command. So what you can do, we can just select this particular command over here, and we can use this execute again. So we can press Ctrl E, and you can see that the query where we have defined a table under the database called D underscore data work has been executed. Now one interesting thing that I want you guys to focus on, that is, if you can keep your eyes over here, if you can focus in this particular area, the moment I use this clause, use underscore database name, you can see the name of the database is being shown, is being displayed over here. Now this particular area signifies that we are currently using, or we are currently working on this particular data, that is database, that is d underscore data work. Now these are the small things which will help you to create a database and to communicate or to work on that particular database. Now coming back to the example, we have created a table and I have assigned a column in that table. Now in order to see that particular table, you can just right click on this particular database and you can click on refresh, and you can come down to this table folder and you can see that we have created a table called t underscore prod. Now this is the icon of a table that we have created. Now the next thing that we're going to work is to insert a value in this particular table. Now how to insert a value? For that we'll be using a insert command. Now let's write a small query to insert a value in this table. Now for that I'll come to the next line and I will use a insert clause. So insert, so these are very simple English terms. Now nothing to get confused over here. I am just following a hierarchy where I have created a table under the server called Panther, and in that table I am now inserting a value in that particular table. So what we can do, we write insert into. Now where we have to insert? We have to insert in the table name. So we can drag this table name and you can release your mouse over here. So what I have done, I have selected this table name and I have dragged this table name over here and I have released my mouse. Now what I can do, I will write the column name over here. The column is product. So I will open a curly bracket, and if I click on this particular table plus sign, I have got the column name which I have created while creating this table. Remember the table product, the column name is product, which with the data types of varchar 5. Now I will be discussing the data types today in next few sessions, next few minutes. Before that, let's insert a value in this table. Now again, the same way, we can drag this particular column and you can release your mouse over here and you can close the bracket and you can press enter. Now let me insert values into this particular table. So what values? I will write a clause called values. I'll open a bracket and let me type the first value. Let me insert the first value in this product column, that is product 1, and I can close the bracket. Let me insert the second value, product 2, and let me close the bracket and use a semicolon to end the particular clause. Now what I can do, I can select this particular query that I have written where I want to insert these two values in the table under the column name product. Now what I can do, I have selected this particular and I can use Control plus E, and you can see I've got a message where it's saying that 2 rows has been affected. That means I was successfully able to insert 2 values into this particular table called t underscore prod, where we have a column name called product. Now let's see whether we were able to insert this value or not. For that, I will write one more query, that is select star, the most famous query that we use in SQL Server, the select statement, star from T underscore prod, and let's execute this query. And you can see that we were able to insert the value in this particular column called product, and the two values that we were working with is product 1 and product 2. Now this particular statement I'll be using very occasionally in today's discussion. The first, we have following a simple hierarchy of creating a database. Then I've created a table. Now I've created a I've written a query to insert the values in this particular table under the column product, and then we were able to successfully display the values in that particular table. The next thing that I'm going to show you is how to update a table. Now update is also a very important command or query command in SQL Server. Now let me discuss the scenario first. What I want to update the product 2 with a different name. Now suppose I have insert a value in the table and by mistake I have insert one of the value as a wrong expression. Now in this scenario, what I want to change the name of the product 2 from PRD2 to PRD3. For this, we'll be using one more command called an update command. This is also one of the most important command. Now, before I write this particular command, let me tell you one important information. I want to share you important information. In my next session on SQL Server, I am going to work extensively on the select command. That particular session will be totally dedicated to select command. And you guys will be surprised to know that select command we don't just use select command for extracting value, but we can use it in a very dynamic way to manipulate the data that is available in your table. So I'm coming up with one of the most important session in my next session on SQL Server, where I'll be talking about the select statement in a detailed way, and where I'll be using a lot of hands-on examples, and it will be a good practice for you guys to get into the complexities of SQL Server. And again, I'm saying this is a very easy tool to learn. It's a very easy application to learn. This is normal English statement that we'll be using. Fine. So coming back to the discussion, I want to update this particular PRD2 value. I want to replace this value with PRD3. So for that, what I can do, I will write an update command, and which table I want to update? I want to update the T underscore prod table. So I can just select this table and I can drag this table name over here. So we are telling SQL Server Management Studio to update the table T underscore prod, and set is also another clause, the product to PRD3. So we are telling that I want this table to be updated. Oh, sorry, I've missed this product value over here. So I'll drag the product over here and set product equals to PRD3, where the product is equals to PRD2. So we have to add a condition with that. So what we can do, we can again come to the next line and we can write it over here, where I can drag this product name again over here, equals to PRD3 2, sorry, and we can close this particular query, and let's run this particular query. So I have to select this query again, and I can press Control E, and you can see that I have got a message over here that is one row is affected. Now let us see again how we can see the changes that has been done in this particular table. So we can again write the famous command select star from the table name. Select star from T underscore table, and let's execute this query. And you can see that the table, the column P column product, and the second row of the column product has been updated with the new update of PRD3, and PRD2 has been replaced with the help of this update command. Now this is a very handy command. Now the idea behind this example is to show you that how we work on a day-to-day basis and what are the common roles and activities that we do when we are working with in SQL Server. Now this will give an idea about how we can create a database, a table, and how we can update a table, how we can insert certain values in the table. The next command that I'm going to work on is to alter the database. Now, the question is why we need to alter a database. You can answer, you can comment your answer in the chat window. Why we need to, I need some scenarios. Just do a little bit of brainstorming and tell me why we need to alter a database. What's the use of, what's the business purpose? And then I will show you how we can alter a database and we can modify the name of the database. See, there can be any definite reason for altering a database. It can be to make that database a unique database in a way that, okay, we can identify that database with some special names. There can be various reasons for altering a database that depends on the vision of the organization or the business purpose for which we are using that particular database. Now over here, we are using the database called d underscore data work. Now I somehow feel that I can have a better name for this database as per the data that we are using over here. Now we are using a product specific data. So why can't we change the name of this database something related to the amount of data, the type of data that is handling? So we can name this database as a d underscore product. Now the question is how we can alter the database name. For that, we'll use one more clause, that is alter database. So I will use alter database. Now what I can do, I can bring this particular database over here. I can drag the database name and I can bring the database over here. Now what I am telling SQL Server Management Studio that I want to alter this database where I want to modify the name to something like d underscore product. And we can close this query with a semicolon, and let's execute this query. And I can use Control E again, and you can see that I've got a message that the database name d underscore product has been set. Now, in order to see the changes of this particular database, we have to do a small uh, operation where we need to disconnect the server for a few seconds, and again we can reconnect it back to see the changes. Now, how we can disconnect this server connection? If you come to this Object Explorer window, you can see the server details over here. The laptop name, my laptop name is over here, followed by the server name. And just below, above that, you can see an option where you can see a socket like icon. So the first is the connection, and the second is the option to disconnect the connection. So there's a cross mark beside that socket connection. So I can just click on this and I have disconnected the server. And again, I can click on this particular icon and I'll be asked to connect back to this particular database, that is Panther. And I can click on connect. And now if I check this particular database folder, you can see the name has been changed from D underscore data work to D underscore product. Now this is the way that we can alter the name of a database. Now, as I said, I request you guys just to explore the reason why we need to change a database name, and you can comment your answers in the chat window. Now, it's a very interesting topic where changing a database name will never change the other table or the column structure that is associated with that particular table. So if you change the name of a database, it will never ever affect any components that are listed under that particular database. The same way that by which we have changed the database name, we can also alter the table components also. Now what I want to add a column to this particular table where I want to allocate some product ID to the product name that is available in this particular table. I repeat, the requirement is I need to alter this table in such a way that I'm able to add a new column. The name of the column is product ID. Now, that particular product ID column should also have the product ID associated with each of the product. Now, let's work on this particular requirement. What we can do? We can go to the next line, and the way we have altered the database, the same way we'll write alter table, and I can bring the table from D product that is T underscore prod over here, and in the next line what I can do, I can use a simple clause called add, where I want to add a new column called prod underscore ID, and the data type of that particular ID will be int, and I want to provide an identity to this particular product ID component. What I want when I say identity, what I mean that I want to assign the first number of the product ID along with the increment value. Now, when I say identity, what does identity do? It assigns a product ID where we'll define the first number of the product ID and we'll add an increment number to that particular ID so that the next product ID will be that number which is a result of that increment. Now let's see how we can assign an identity. So I will use the word called identity, and I will open a curly bracket, and the first number that I want to assign over here is 1, That means I want the product ID column to start with 1 and the increment should be 5. And I can put a semicolon over here. Now let's execute this particular query and see how it works. So I can select this particular query, I'll go to execute, or I can press Ctrl plus E, and you can see that I was able to add a column called product ID where I have assigned the product ID to PRD1 and PRD3 starting from 1. Now how can we change see this particular change? We can go to the next line, and again I will write select star from T underscore product, and let's execute this query. Now you can see that I was able to add a new column to this table called T underscore product, where this identity clause has assigned the first ID as 1 and the increment value was 5. That means 1 plus 5 equals to 6. So the second product ID which was being assigned to this particular product 3 is 6. So you can see slowly I am able to create a table. I was able to create a database. We were able to insert a value in that particular database, and we were able to alter the database along with the table, where we have added a new column and we have added a ID column with allocating the proper ID values along with the increment. Now let's have a recap of whatever things we have done till now. Now you can see everything is under a hierarchy that I was explaining you earlier. We have created a database, table, values, we have updated the values, we were able to alter the database, we were able to alter the table, and we were able to see the values. The next scenario is I want to alter a particular column. Now, if you can see over here, if I come down to this particular database, that is product, under this product we have a table called T underscore product. Now if I open this column, I'm able to see the product and the product ID column. Now I want to alter this particular product column where the database varchar, I want to change it from 5 to 12. Now if I can right click on this particular database, if I can select and I select design option, you can see this particular database contains the column name, two columns, and the first column is a product column. Now this particular column, the data type that we are having is varchar 5. Now I want to alter this column and I want to change this varchar, the capacity, the value associated with varchar from 5 to 12. Now let's see how we can alter this column name. In order to alter this column name, what I can do, I can again go to the next line and I'll write again a alter option. Now what I can do, I will write alter table. I'll bring the table name over here. And I will now write another clause or the query, that is alter column. I will write that I will bring this product over here, and you can see this product contains the data type as varchar 5. Now over here what I will do, I will write varchar and I'll write 12 within bracket, and I'll use comma. I'll use a semicolon to execute, to terminate this particular, to complete this particular query. Now let's see how we can execute this particular query. I'll select this query and I will press Ctrl plus E, and I've got a command like completed successfully. Now for seeing the changes that I have done over here, what I can do a right click over here and I can refresh this particular table. And you can see that once I refresh this table, this varchar 5 has been updated to 12. Now these are the certain important what you can say operations that we can perform at the database level, table level, and the column level. Now I want you guys to look this particular query very carefully, because over here I'm not only altering the table, I'm also altering the column name. So I'm using two clauses of altering the table and the column. Now this product column, the data type of this has been changed to varchar 12. So we can see that we were able to create a database, we were able to create a table, we have insert a table data over here, we have updated the table data, we have also modified the database name, we were able to successfully alter the table, we were also able to alter the column associated with that particular table. The next what we can do, we can duplicate a database before we take a backup, or before we drop a database, or before we restore. So let's duplicate a database. Now in order to duplicate a database, what we can do, just a minute guys. Fine. So in order to duplicate a database, what we can do, we can right click on this particular database option over here, and you have to create a new database. Now I selected the new database option, and let's duplicate this particular database called d underscore product. Now what I can do, I can write the name of this new database as d underscore product underscore copy. So I given a duplicate name for this particular database, and let me click on OK. Now you can see the moment I have created the new database, a duplicate database has been created. Now what I have done, I have actually duplicated the value of the name of the database. Now what we have to do, we have to copy the value from that source database to the destination database. Now the source database is the original database, that is d underscore product. Now we need to bring the value from the source database to the destination database. For that, what we can do a right click over here, and in this particular database, and we have to select the task option from here. Now under this task option, we have an option called import data. Now this particular option, we have to specify the requirement where we want to copy all the data from the source database to the destination database. So I'll select the import data option, and there will be a pop-up window coming up where we have to follow the instruction. So this particular pop-up window sometimes behave very abruptly. Let's see how it behaves right now for this particular session, because I think this particular option actually sometimes get very distorted while using this particular this can be a bug for this SQL Server Management Studio, I don't know, but recently it's this particular uh, pop-up window for importing data and exporting data is behaving very abruptly for me. Okay, fine. So we have got this particular window over here. Now let's click on next. Now over here, see, we have to define the data source. Now we can come over here, click on this drop down, and from here we have to select the SQL Server Native Client 11.0. Now if you click on this particular option, we have to supply the server name over here. So we can see that once we click on this particular server name, it's taking some time, and we can see the server name is not available over here. In that case, what we can do, we can manually insert the server name. Now what is the server name over here? Is the name of this particular laptop device ID for backward slash followed by the server name. So let's type the server name over here. So laptop hyphen AN SO 5S J6 backward slash Panther. So we are given the server name over here, and now like see over here you can see a distorted drop down over here. So as I'm saying that this particular window actually is not behaving properly since my last update of this particular software. So I think there's some bugs has been issued, but anyhow I will try to click on this drop down over here, and from here I have to select the source database. Now what is the source database over here? That is D underscore product. So I will select the D underscore product and I'll click on next, and again I'll get a same window where I have to choose the destination database. So again I will follow the same step. I'll select the class server native, and over see I can see the server name automatically populated over here, and from this drop down I have to select the destination database, that is D underscore product underscore copy, and I'll click on next. And in the next window I'm getting an option where I have been given an option to copy the data from one or more table or view, or write a query to specify the data to transfer. Now this particular second option is for custom transfer, but as of now we'll select the copy data from one or more tables. Means there can be n number of rows in this particular database, there can be n number of views. Now what are views? Nothing to worry, I will discuss about views. For now, just in simple language, just understand that whatever data that is available in this particular table, the destination, the source database, that is D underscore product, we want to copy those data from the product table to the duplicate database, that is product underscore copy. So we'll select this particular option, click on next, and in the next window we can see that we have got an option that select the source table and views. So this is the source table in the left hand side, and this is the destination database. So the source database is table listed under the source database, and the table which is to be copied into the destination database. Now again I'll click on next, and will not change anything over here. We'll keep this particular screen as it is, where it has been check marked as run immediately, and we'll click on next. And you can see there is certain information that has been shown over here as whatever steps we have performed. It's written over here that we have copied the rows from table T underscore prod to another database where the same table has been copied, and we'll click on finish. The moment I click on finish, you can see there is some process which are getting executed over here. and as a result of that particular execution, I've got a status message as success where 2 rows has been transferred, and I'll click on close. Now this particular data from the source database has been successfully copied to the destination database. Now if I do a refresh of this particular database and I click on the table, you can see the T underscore product table has been copied from the source database along with all the columns, that is product and product ID, has been successfully copied from the this particular database to the duplicate database. Now the question is, what is the purpose of creating a duplicate database? Why we need to create a duplicate database? Yes, the first answer is a very obvious answer: for the purpose of data security. This can be a part of our security operations, where you want to make a database duplicate just to take a backup of that database and need to keep that database. Now this kind of there can be a lot of obvious reason for duplicating your database. Now I would request you guys to explore the reasons why we need to actually duplicate a database, and what are the steps that I have followed to copy the data for importing the data from the source database to the destination database. The next scenario that I'm going to talk about is how can we drop a database. Now if I see if I want to drop a database, the first thing that we need to keep in mind that we cannot drop a database that is in use. We can never drop that database. So we cannot write, if we write a query for dropping that particular database, for example, over here we are using a database called d underscore product. Now if I try to drop this database, the SQL Server Management Studio will not allow me to do that because it's in use. So we can drop a database which is not in use. So which one we can go for? Let's drop this particular duplicate database that I have created. And for that, dropping this particular database, what I can do, I will write one query called drop database, and I can bring this particular database and I'll use a semicolon to complete this particular query. Now let me execute this query, and you can see that the command has been successfully completed, but still we are able to see this particular database over here. So we can do a right click on the database and we can refresh it, and you can see the d underscore product underscore copy database has been successfully dropped from the this list of database that we are working with. So this is a way we can drop a database, and let me see if there is any question that I'm getting that I can answer till now, whatever things I've covered. Just a minute, guys. Okay, so Shashank is asking, can you please explain why we use subqueries and where to use a subquery? Also, do have alternative to subqueries? Shashank, don't worry, I'll be coming up on this particular topic in my upcoming sessions. So there is a dedicated session for subqueries where I'll talk about this particular topic and the best practices and all the alternative that we have for subqueries. This is a very interesting questions, and yeah, Gautam, I guess I have answered your question. So I have altered a column We can alter a column also for that, but okay, fine. So if we want to initiate this particular process for altering, we can start it from the table. No issues in that. So Pooja, we need to alter table sometimes if we feel that there is a wrong information that has been updated in the table. So in that scenario, we can alter a table. Mostly in the cases of certain updation or certain kind of new information that we need to supply to the table. For that, we can go for alter table option. The subquery sessions will be announced shortly because I'm actually following a roadmap. So subquery discussing subqueries will be, it will be too early for this particular session, because before working on subqueries we need to work on certain most important topics like the commands like select, join, views, and then we can move to the subquery, because subquery is a kind of advanced level discussion on SQL. So I hope by next 2 3 sessions I will be able to reach to that particular topic. Fine. So with that, what we can do, we can just continue our discussion on the other topics. So we have discussed uh, the duplicate table, and we have also discussed the drop database. The next thing that I want to talk about is taking a backup. Now, taking a backup of a database is a very important operation. So it's a very important activity of a day-to-day operations that we do with SQL Server. So how we can take a backup of a database? So what we can do, we can right click on any database that we have. For example, I'll be using this D product database for this particular scenario. So I'll do a right click on the D product, and we can go to the task, and over here we have an option called backup. Now, taking a backup of a database with the help of a SQL Server Management Studio needs to follow certain steps. So I want you guys to please follow this particular scenario when I'm discussing it over here. So I'll click on backup, and this particular window will come up. So now over in this particular window, we can see there are three options: the general, the media options, and the backup options. Now let us see what are these options are. Now in the connection section, you can see the server details and the connection details that we are actually working on this particular server. Now in the general, we can see the database name. Now the backup type is full, and the backup component is a database. So we'll not change anything as of now for this particular option. Now if you can come down to the destination, this is the important information to look upon. This particular backup of this particular database will be stored in your local system as per the defined path over here. You can also remove this path, and you can add a new path as per your convenience with this add and remove option. However, I have selected this particular option where the database, that is d underscore product, will be stored as a backup file under my MySQL Server folder. So SQL Server folder under this SQL Server Management Studio, and the backup folder slash the database name, that is d underscore product dot back. So this is the back is the format of the backup file, the backup file that you are going to take for this particular database. Now the next option is the media options. Now over here we have to do a small change. What we can do, under the first option where it is written as overwrite media, the default value over here it is append to existing backup setup. What we can do, we can change this particular option from append to overwrite. Now what will happen when we select overwrite existing backup sets? This will actually overwrite all the existing backup that we have taken in the past, and a fresh backup file will be stored in your local system. Change by doing this particular change, let's move to the next option, that is backup option. Now over here we'll not do any much changes, but the only thing that we need to take care of is the name over here. It should show the correct name and it should display our information like full database backup. Now what I can do, I can click on OK, and you can see it has started executing, and the backup of the database d_product is completed successfully. Now we can close this, and this particular backup has been taken successfully. Now where this backup has been taken, we can go back over here in this particular location, and you can see in the backup folder under your program files, SQL Server server details, under the backup file you can find this particular database with .bak format. Now these are the steps by which you can back up a particular database. Now the question is, once we have taken the backup, we have to restore the database. Now how we can do that? We can do a right click, task, and just below backup there is an option called restore. Now this restore option has a lot of other options also, but our area of focus will be database. So I'll click on database, and there will be a pop-up window with the same options, few options like general, file, and option over here. Now over here we have to select the device option from the general section to restore back the database. Now whenever we are restoring a database, one important point that you need to keep in mind while restoring a database is make sure that database is not available over here. Then only you can restore a database, or else it will throw an error showing that the database is already present in your server. Now in order to restore a database, we'll use this device option, and I'll click on this particular 3 dots over here. Now in these 3 dots will open me the location, will ask for the location where the backup file is stored. And as we have discussed in the last example, while doing the backup, we'll click on this add option and will be taken to the location where the file has been stored. And you can see that d_product file is available under SQL Server folder. And if you can come down under this particular option, MSSQL backup folder, this particular file has been stored successfully with a .bak format. Now you can select this particular file, click on OK, and again you can see this path has been defined over here. We can again click on OK, and you can see this particular file details are available over here. You can check the details for better clarification, and once you click on OK, this particular database will be again restored back into the server, that is Panther over here. Now if I take the backup with this particular database, now it will throw me an error because this d_product is already there in my database, in my server, sorry. So in that case we just need to click on OK, and the database will be restored back. So this is a way we can restore back a database into a server once we take the backup of that. So these are the very important operations that we need to take care of on a day-to-day basis when you're working with a SQL Server. We are working with tables and database columns. Now the next topic that I'm going to talk about is a type of the different data types that are available in SQL Server. So let me get back to my PPT and let us discuss the types of database that we use in SQL Server. So there are 4 main kinds of data types which generally we work on a day-to-day basis. The first is the string, the second is a numeric, the third is a date, and the fourth is other data types. So let us check one of the data types. So this is a string data type. Now you can see that we were using some of the data types over here, like the varchar data type, from this particular section in today's discussion. Now, string data types are the types where we work with some text data. So like character, varchar, text. Now, each of the data type has a strength, a capacity to handle the number of characters that is assigned to it on the string data type. Now, for example, if I take randomly any data type from here, that is varchar, you can see the variable length storage, the maximum length that this particular data type can handle is 8,000 characters. Now, similarly, if you go for the text data type, it can handle a maximum size of 2 GB of data, and that is a huge capacity. Now, data types, defining a data type and what kind of data type we need to assign for a particular column value, it all depends on the table architecture that you are designing. It all depends on the requirement of the table design. Now, these all things will again come from the business understanding. So whenever you are working with some table data or rows and columns, you need to first understand what is the business requirement, what kind of data this particular table is going to store, what is the underlying data that will be working with once this table is created. Now I'll be talking about all these things in detail as this particular discussion progresses further. The next type of data type that we'll deal with, numeric. Now, what are data types? Now, data types are nothing but it's a type of the value that you are going to use, whether the value is a text in nature, whether the value is numerical in value, numeric in nature, or that value is something related to time intelligence or time component, or it can be any other values depending upon the type of data that you are going to store in that particular table. Now, numeric data type are some of the commonly used numeric data type is int, float, real. So these are the types of data type that we are going to use. So int, for example, as I've used in the product ID column. So product ID column was storing a numerical value. If I come back to this particular ID, so you can see the product ID, I have assigned a int data type because it was storing a numerical value. Now, the same thing I assigned a product column as a varchar because it was storing some text value. So depending upon the table requirement, the table structure, we take the data types. Now, there is nothing that we need to take care of in terms of data type. These all things will come into your grip as and when you start practicing on the table, creating a table, and what kind of data that does the table will be holding up after you create the table. So you cannot learn it as that, okay, fine, I have to remember this kind of data type for this. No, it's nothing like that. Everything starts with understanding the business first. Everything starts with a requirement analysis. So as I said in my yesterday's discussion, you need to have that particular analytics mindset that, okay, fine, what is the business and what kind of data this business? Now, what I need to create while working with a SQL server. So these are all things, all these particular points are interrelated. I am just showing you the roadmap that we need to follow. It is you who have to implement those things. It is you who have to do the brainstorming as, okay, fine, this is the roadmap that I have got. Now, why I have to implement it? So these are the data types that we are going to. After int, we have one. The next data type is the date and the other data type. The date data type, what it does, it actually holds the time components of the date. It can be year, month, days, time, weekdays. Now, there are a lot of data that we are going to store in a table where it can be on a weekly basis or it can be on a per day basis. So there are a lot of things that is related to time that we need to take care of. For using those particular options, we use a date data type. Now I'll be showing you the implementation of date data type in my next session, where I'll be talking how we can integrate the concept of date along with the select statement. Now select statement is a very powerful data manipulation language, DML language in SQL Server. So I'll show you how we can use the numeric data type, how we can use the string data type along with the select statement, and how we can extract or how we can manipulate the data of a particular table. Now this was all I was planning to discuss with you today, but one more important topic that I want to discuss with you guys is the types of data type. Now there are three important types of data type. The first is OLTP, so it's online transaction processing data. The second is OLAP, it is also an online analytical processing database. And the third is MOLAP, that is multi-dimensional online processing database. Now there are three types of data type, that is OLTP, OLAP and MOLAP. Now the most commonly used database is the most commonly used across the database. Now all the three databases are very important: OLTP, OLAP and MOLAP. Out of these three, the most commonly used is OLTP. This is the online process database. That is, for example, the real world example of a OLTP database can be an e-commerce website. You can say an e-commerce website can process huge amount of data. It stores huge amount of data in the backend. So we use an OLTP type of database for maintaining this kind of data. For OLAP, we can the best example for OLAP database is a data warehouse. A data warehouse is the best example of a OLAP type of database. What it does, the data warehouse concept, it holds the data, it stores the data in a systematic manner by following certain protocols like data mart, data lakes, data cubes. So these are the certain certain protocols that a data warehouse follows while storing a data into a data warehouse. Now this kind of data is called a OLAP database. Now you can find a lot of definition about OLAP and OLTP over the internet. I'll just request you guys to explore this kind of database and try to gain knowledge about what kind of database we need to use for this kind of for this kind of database, in which scenario you have to use this kind of database, and which are the business areas this database takes care of. Now this was all I was wanted to discuss with you guys today. I hope the agenda that was there in line for discussion today was clear to you. However, from next session, things will become more and more complicated and in detail, but very easy for you guys to understand this. So let's meet on the next session of SQL, and let's start our journey on the next level of advanced SQL operations. And the first topic that I'm going to talk about is a select statement. Till now, we were just walking through all the topics, and now we'll take on each of the topics in detail for the next class, and I am coming up with a lot of hands-on examples for those topics. Fine. Thank you guys for watching this video. Stay safe and keep learning. Thank you.